Hi, everyone. Is anybody out there? I'm going to do this just like I would do a class. And so, just to make sure that you can hear me, I'm going to put on my audio right here. And then if someone's there, if you could tell me if you hear me. Great. I see that one person's out there right now. It's so good to have you here. If you've never stopped by my studio before, my name is Barbie Mathis, and I love to paint the beauty of nature. And right now, we're actually in my kitchen. And these are some of my paintings that I have right here. You can see that I really like to do watercolor, but I also do acrylics. And in my public classes, I teach both watercolor and acrylic, and oftentimes together because they're all forms of water media. And so I may have to adjust this since this is my first time going live, and then you'll be able to see what I'm doing over here. But first of all, let me tell you how I approach skies. Skies are one of my most favorite things to paint, and I have several books that have inspired me, and so I'm going to go ahead and just show you a couple of books first. This is one of my favorite books. If you haven't read this before, Ron Ranson on Skies. He has examples of photographs of skies that you can follow, and he paints both in watercolor and acrylic and oils in here, and also touches up with some pastels. And so this is all just a great book to get an idea of how to do skies. And welcome whoever's here. And if you can, type something in the chat and say hello. And if you can hear me well, because I haven't done this before. Thank you. So the way that I get started with skies is, especially in watercolor or acrylic, all skies start with something like a flat surface, like a clear blue sky day, or a gradated sky, which is like darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. And then what I call a wet into wet sky with all of these pretty colors here. And this is an example of some of these types of skies. And so I'm going to show you how to do some of these things. And this is an example of what I also do. I'll take a photograph like this. And this is an example of what it might look like while I'm working on it in watercolor. I wonder if you can see that. This is an example of acrylic. And I'm not going to be demonstrating acrylic today, but I will do some more just acrylic painting so that you can see the start, because the process is a little bit different and the drying time is different. So that is an example of some of the different types of water media. Yesterday, I was talking about how to paint clouds. And oh, great. I see Tina's out there and you can hear. Oh, I'm so glad that you're watching. This is what I started yesterday, and I still have a little bit more to go on it because watercolor takes a little while to dry. And so we had decided, what colors. I always try to come up with some kind of color chart like this. And so we use different blues, and then we use some unexpected colors to make some of our darks, such as the green and the red together, and then the darks for our clouds, such as a burnt sienna and a gray together. So I just wanted to show you how that was coming along. And let me see. Here are some more. This is another example of something I had started in another class using this. And I have the most lovely pond near my house. And so this does not have the final touches on it in acrylic. And this is what it started out like in watercolor. And so in watercolor, you have to wait till it dries and layer lots of colors on top. But this is where it's headed. And then when I put the final details on, it will look something like this. So just for some basic techniques for a sky demonstration, I first want to do a lift out method. This book is a landscape book for acrylic painters, but I think it's good for any kind of painters, by Hugh Greer. I love this book. He has something in here that is a demonstration of the lift out method. And starting out with a yellow oxide, or it could be yellow ochre, and you put that underneath, and you can do that both in watercolor and acrylic. And so I will start out something like that. And you who are out there, I have two out there now. All right. I may have to scoot this a little bit closer so that you can see the screen. Going live is a little tricky because I don't have the right camera equipment right now. Usually when I do my videos, I do it with a phone. And so I'm trying this with my laptop right now. And let's see. What I'll do is I'll have this over here, but I don't want this to fall off. Here we go. Thank you for being patient with me while I learn how to do this. I'm first going to show you, for watercolor, I like 100% cotton paper. And this is an Arches paper like this. And you can tell it's 100% cotton because it says it down here. Some of the cheaper papers don't absorb the paint as well. And you can use this for acrylic painting too. And just letting you know, the way that I set it up is I use, oh, that one has something on the back of it. I use a foam board. You can see I reuse a lot of things. And then I just use regular masking tape to tape around it. And I wanted some thinner areas in the middle. So I got this thinner, I think it's about a 1/2 inch tape. It's in a different color so you can see where they are. And what I'll do is I'll just hold some of these up while I'm working. Also, the brushes that I like, especially in acrylic painting, I like filbert brushes. They are just so good for clouds. I'm trying to adjust the light a little bit more so you can see this. I'll hold it up close. Let's see. There. Oops, there we go. The camera on this is in a different place, and so I don't know how much you can see that. But look, there's a rounded edge, but it also gets very thin too. So you can make really fine lines with it as well as round puffy clouds. So I'll show you how that comes out on here. And I also like round brushes for doing clouds. Now there's always exceptions. This guy that in this book uses all flat brushes, and he paints around them so well. You'll just have to see this book because it's just such a good book. Anyway, so let's get started. This won't be a really long demonstration, but I want to do a little bit, and if I can perfect this method, it might be a good way to keep in touch with you guys. So let's get started. These are so small, but use a brush according to the size of what you're painting. If you're painting something really big, use a big brush because it will take so long to fill in something with a little teeny tiny brush. And that's what I see a lot of beginners doing, and we don't want that to happen. And so I see that this light is glaring in there, and let's see. Except I want you to be able to see this, but I'll tell you what. I'm going to take this out right now and hold it up. I usually don't do watercolor holding it up, but I want you to make sure that you can see it. So this is an example of how This person, I think it's Hugh Greer, does it in his book. This is yellow ochre that I'm using. Okay, that itself is considered a flat wash, but you can take a tissue or a paper towel and lift out clouds. And so I'm going to try to turn around a little bit right here and lift out a big cloud. And you can see that it's lighter in that section, so it already makes a puffy looking effect on the cloud. And so if I know the person out there does acrylics, and so if you started your acrylic painting like this, which you can while it's still wet, start dabbing it and then paint around it with your blue, it will look gorgeous because your clouds are going to look like they have sunlight on them from the yellow tone of this. You can do this with any color, actually. You can do it with pinks. You can do it with, even blue. I have quite a few that I've done with blue like that. And people who have not seen me before, you'll know that in my classes, I jump around a little bit, but it all relates and it all ties together at the end. So this is an example right here of some clouds that were done by doing a flat surface and then dabbing it out. There's some more, gradated, wet into wet skies right here. And there was just a little mini painting that I did. And also, while we're talking about clouds, you can do clouds two different ways. You can do them where you draw the outline of it, and I'm just looking for the photographs that I have right here. Those who are in my class have seen this before, but I really like to walk a lot, and especially in the afternoon after I've been working or painting. And notice this, I saw this in a book by Ron Stock on plein air painting. If your clouds are backlit, like the sun is behind those clouds coming around, you're going to have a white line around it. Well, this is very hard to do in watercolor, especially. So I started out not using any masking fluid right here, and that kind of all ran together and became a mess. And so in this one, I used masking fluid, and if you aren't familiar with masking fluid, it comes in a bottle like this, and this one's a little dried up. I need to get some more right now. You can paint it on with a synthetic brush, not a good sable brush like you would use for your watercolor, but the synthetic brush is dipped in a little bit of soap and squeezed out and then put into the masking fluid. Then you go all the way around wherever you want to keep the light. And you can even make it soft by wetting this first. And when you start putting the masking fluid on, it diffuses. It sort of like bleeds and makes a soft look right in here. And so what you do when you put the masking fluid on, you let it dry. And I have some of my notes that I've used for classes before here, but you let it dry. And then to make this shadow in front of the cloud, you mix a couple of dark colors, such as this is Payne's Gray and alizarin crimson. I also sometimes use phthalo blue with alizarin crimson because you can get these pretty navy blues and then some purple colors in there. And so after that masking fluid has dried, I re-wet the inside of this and then put this in. So it's I brush it in. It can be with any kind of brush, but sometimes look like with a large quill brush. Quill brush is just a big round brush, and this has this one is a particularly good one, Princeton Neptune number 4. It has natural squirrel hair and synthetic, so it holds a lot of paint. And so when you're putting it on there, you can just dip it almost just one time and just put it all in there And then you might want to go back and add some colors in there. Um, and then this is an example right here where you use a masking fluid pen. Now, the downside of masking fluid pens is if you use them very often, they dry up really fast, and you have to do something to keep them flowing. And so I would demonstrate that. But when I was looking for it today, my masking fluid pen had dried up, so I need to get a new one. But after that pen goes on there, then I do the same thing. I painted the whole thing blue just to experiment, and then put some of the dark over it like that. And then you go over it with your dark silhouetted trees, which I had not finished that one yet. But you can see how that would go. And the same thing for these right here. I think that I have this one right here. So this is a very quick and easy way to do a complicated backlit cloud. And I would highly suggest getting one of those large quill brushes, or even a large round brush, to just brush this down like that. So that's, I will not be demonstrating this one today, but this is how you do that. I just painted my wall. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to do wet into wet clouds now. Sometimes I just mix up some paints ahead of time like this. I try to mix a big puddle, and I squeeze out paints into a palette like this. I tend to like it better because the size of the opening of where the paint is larger. And I squeeze a lot of paint out of the tube, and you can re-wet watercolor, and it re-wets every time. Whereas in acrylic paintings, you cannot re-wet it. And this is the advantage of watercolor, but then it can also be a disadvantage if you want to keep something on your, page permanent. The good thing about this is that the watercolor can lift back up again. And so I'm letting that one dry because I want to show you what it looks like with color around it. But I'm going to do a wet into wet cloud area. And I don't have the sample of the picture of that one, but you can see what this looks like. Wet into wet means wet paper. I also do this on canvases too, Tina. So you can start a painting like this, and then you can build it up if you prefer a thicker look in acrylic. Okay, that has little fuzzy things on it. I have a black cat, and so my black cat gets little black furry things all over the place. And anyway, so just to give you a clue of how this is done. See how this bleeds? Now, it's easier to do this flat, but some skies look like this, where they have blue in them, and then they might have some pink. And they might have a little bit of yellow and orange. When you put the yellow into the pink, it turns orange like this. And then sometimes towards the very horizon, it gets very yellow. Just like that. So that's considered a wet into wet sky. A lot of times what people will do is, if they want a wet onto dry sky, that means onto dry paper, they will plan out their drawing ahead of time. And I'm looking around here. I don't have a pencil with me right here because this is the kitchen and I usually have my stuff in my art room. But just to give you an idea of this, you can draw out a specific shape of a cloud. Let's see. Oops, here it goes dripping a little bit. Whoops. Here. And the paper is dry, so wherever you stop, it's gonna stop. It's gonna give you a crisp edge. And so here I am going to do like this, and let's just say I've got the bottom of the cloud there right now. And so if you have one that's really clumpy like that, you can go back with your, I suggest a Kleenex tissue or something like that, but you can go back and soften the edges before it dries completely. And maybe toward the bottom too. And so if skies have light from the top instead of from behind, like that one other one we were looking at, you oftentimes have shadows at the bottom. And so see how I'm giving this one a shadow on the bottom right here. And you might also have a little bit of variations. Most clouds are not solid like that. So there might be a few soft variations in it that might be that sky color right there. But that's basically how you would do really puffy clouds. And there are so many other kinds of clouds. Now, a lot of people will ask me, how do you do dark clouds? Let me move this chair around a little bit. Dark clouds, here, let me make a flat surface, and I might have a flat surface already made on one of these right here. Let's see. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to make a flat surface. While it's drying a little bit, I'll show you how to use a filbert brush. Okay, so let me get this, a little bit of blue on here. Actually, I'm going to use a little bit of the yellowish orange sky, because a lot of times at night when the sun's going down, you'll see dark clouds in front. And so here. Okay. This has to dry just a little bit to show you the dark clouds, but in the meantime, I'm going to mix up a dark. So I just made a flat sky there. It can have streaked colors in the sky. It can have everything. And so in order to make a dark, one of the ways that I do it is you can use Payne's Gray, and this is not going to be a pretty sky scene. I'm going to show you the different cloud colors that you can do. If you use just Payne's Gray, it might be something like this, and see how it bleeds. So your paper might need to be a little bit drier with that. So those are some dark clouds. Other ways to make dark clouds, I like phthalo blue-green shade mixed with alizarin crimson. Okay, this might be a little bit drier so you can see the difference. And usually you won't see so many different colors of clouds, but sometimes you do. Maybe this might be lighter because it's closer to the sun. Okay, that one doesn't have a lot of blue in it, but it could have more blue stuck in it. So these can range in a, from purple to blue to, all kinds of colors going down like that. And you can also, if you don't like the way it's bleeding on there, which is, that's a little much right now. I should have let that dry just a little bit more. But if that happens, you can take your Q-tip, and maybe I might do this up here a little bit. So this one, I want to control the edges a little bit more. And I can show you a picture of when you might want to do this. I have some pictures that I show to my classes. Well, that one kind of ran all over, but anyway, this is what you would do. If you had a sky that you wanted to put a lot of clouds in front of, first you could do the gradated sky, which is darker at the top, and then it gets lighter as it goes toward the bottom with a peachy yellow color. Then re-wet it again after it's dry, and this is an example of how you would put clouds on top of it. And those are the types of clouds that I'm aiming for right here. But you will need to plan it out just a little bit better than that, of course. So anyway, this is a way that you can do clouds. You can do burnt sienna clouds. You might want to use a really tiny brush for that. This particular scene right here has little clouds stuck in it like that. And this is almost dry now, so it's more controllable. Now that's wet up in there, so I can change the color of it if I want. But this watercolor is a lot more workable than you think it's going to be. So there's some colors mixed in there. I might even mix some blue into that here. It's all an experiment. What I would suggest is just taking out a canvas or paper and just playing, because that is how you really learn how to do everything, is just playing. And I saw a really good video today by this friend of mine, Rachel Varner, might be Rachel Parker Varner on YouTube. And she and I and Dean Krauser are going to be teaching at a watercolor cruise to Alaska in June of 2027. So you might want to go by her channel and check out her work and what she does. What she was talking about today was playing. And so you can come up with all kinds of things as you play. And see, this one's starting to shape up just a little bit. If I had used a picture to look at from the beginning, I think it would have worked out a little bit better. I'm looking around to see if anybody has any more questions. And does anybody have any questions? If you do, let me know, and I can answer it, and then I'll probably go ahead and turn this off in just a few minutes then. So I'll wait and I'll look over here just a minute to see if you have any questions. But this is drying pretty well. You can see that watercolor dries really much lighter. So sometimes you have to go over it several times, or you have to use more of the pigment. And so anyway, plan that out when you're doing your watercolors to see. And this one is dried by now. I can experiment and see what it looks like to have some blue on top, but oftentimes uh, yellow in the background and having blue on top in watercolor, sometimes it looks a little bit muddy. It might turn greenish, but then again, there are green skies sometimes. So I'm going to see what that looks like. And if it doesn't work, we'll know not to do that again, okay? Oops. I'm going to turn this sideways so that it doesn't roll all into our clouds like that. I'm going to blot it a little bit more. It looks kind of interesting, but it definitely shows the yellow behind it. So I'm not sure if I would always do that. I'm going to use a different brush and blot that up a little bit. Sometimes you can lift just a little bit with a brush. Can you see what that's doing? And this might be on one of those nights where it's really orangey outside. Sometimes at the pond, it looks really orange. And another way to do this would be just if you were doing watercolor, just to do the clouds yellow first. So that's how that one turned out right there. And it's going to dry even different than this. This one is an example of starting out with a light blue, putting a darker blue on top, and then also in watercolor, you can reserve the white right here, which I'd put some pinks down into it. And then whatever you have on for the water, you have to reflect it. And this one was a little bit tricky for that. The reflections of a pond, of a marsh is a little bit different. There's all of these grasses that are sticking up, so you have to put the grasses going down. But that's always something to consider. So yeah, this is one that I've liked doing. There is a book that I have that's an old Walter Foster book, and now that company is Quarto.com. They have a book on skies and clouds, and they tell about every single kind of cloud that there is and show how to paint it, mostly in acrylics and oils. So I would highly recommend that book, but I'll have to put that on one of my shorts and show you. But this one in particular is one that you can do by painting blue skies and then dabbing it. So I'm going to go ahead and end this for today. But thank you so much for coming. And if any of you have any ideas for other lives that you would like to see demonstrated, I thought about doing this, maybe not every week. It just depends on how many people would enjoy this. And or every other week, and just having a set painting time. And that way, if we were going to choose one thing to paint, then maybe you could join me, and if you can ask questions while you're working on it, and I'll post ahead of time what I'm doing, such as an acrylic painting of a certain subject matter or a watercolor painting. Okay, but I really appreciate you guys out there. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to at Barbie Mathis Art, and help me to keep my channel growing. And if I can ever do anything for you, please, drop a question in the comments, and I'm glad to answer. Thank you. Have a happy Sunday, everybody. Bye-bye.